What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. 2023 is officially over, and so too is our first year in a legend car. Now, our first year in a legend car was a bit shorter than some others may have done. We only ran 7 races throughout the year, 4 of them being in the 1250 car we ran earlier in the year, and then the last 3 being in this FZ09 car, as well as one of the practice sessions we had. We unfortunately weren't able to make any of the practice sessions with the 1250, but I don't think it would have helped us at all because we ended up chasing down quite a bit of issues with that car early on up until we ended up deciding to sell it. I'm pretty sure we ended up figuring out the issue overall because we ended up replacing pretty much 90% of the car minus a handful of parts, but we definitely learned a lot with that car and were able to touch literally every bolt. We stripped it down to a completely bare chassis, replaced everything that we could think to replace, and eventually got it to where we were comfortable with it. But then we saw this deal pop up on Facebook Marketplace and thought it was a little too good to be true, and we ended up taking it home. So our first season was definitely kind of all over the place, knowing that we switched cars roughly halfway through, but I still think we learned a ton going through each of these cars and figuring out what makes the car turn and kind of learning all the stuff we need to learn to race these. And because we replaced the majority of the car on that white car, we ended up spending nearly $24,000 on the year. But this encompassed everything between the gas to get to and from the show, all of our pit passes and everything. But we also did make about $750 in purse money coming back to the program. So that helped offset the cost a little bit, but we're still over $23,000 on our first year. And I would definitely like to see that number quite a bit less in 2024. But our rookie season definitely saw quite a bit of improvement from the beginning to the end. Obviously, when we first started, we were running pretty much dead last, getting an average of about 20 to 21 second lap times. Albeit, we did have the issue the entire time we had the 1250 car, but as we started getting better and better and finding the issues, we started creeping into the 19s with it. And of course, right when we were starting to feel comfortable with the 1250 car, we ended up selling it and buying this one, which is FZ09 car, completely different car, a big boy chassis. All the chassis updates on this car are present because this is a 2020 chassis. The last car we had, I think, was a 2013 or 2012 chassis. So definitely a big jump in the age, but also just the power plant itself are quite a bit different from each other. Once we got into this car, obviously there was a little bit more of a learning curve. Plus we had someone else's setup in it. So our first weekend in it, which happened to be the doubleheader weekend, didn't go so smoothly. And we did end up getting a little bit of damage on our right front during that weekend. But we did kind of start dialing things in during one of our practice sessions, and we did end up breaking into the 18-second laps on our very last race weekend. Now, obviously, if we had an extra weekend to race this in 2023, I still feel like we would have found a little bit more improvement, whether it would have been getting more consistent lap times or getting an even better time. But we just ultimately ran out of time on the year and ended up where we ended up. And the biggest thing that we were able to accomplish this year was actually here on this YouTube channel. When the year started in January 1st all the way up to December 31st, this whole year has been focused on legend car racing content, and we were able to gain 275 subscribers throughout the entire year, which may not seem like a lot to you, but knowing that we're putting out the best that we can and we don't have a busy schedule like everyone else or the money like everyone else, I still feel like we're in a pretty good spot and we're starting to shoot forward a little bit. And we're definitely going to continue making all these legend car videos for you guys, since it doesn't seem like there's a ton of people who really do them. But after talking a little bit about 2023, I'd like to go over what I plan to do over 2024 to help make ourselves better. Our biggest focus for this year is going to be keeping our overall cost down compared to last year. I know racing isn't really cheap, and there's no expectation for me to believe that it is, but I definitely don't want to spend $24,000 in a year again. Hopefully, we can continue to use this chassis throughout the whole year. If our next year goes how last year did, then we should be pretty good. The FZ09, while this one pretty much has 30 plus nights on it, I still think that we can get away with running it out through the year. So maybe next off season we'll send that out, but as of right now, there's no plan to get that rebuilt or anything like that. We do plan to run all of the Colorado National Speedway races this year, which they just released a draft of their schedule. And right now there's only 9 races on the schedule with 3 practices before the season starts, which means that there's 2 less races compared to years past. I know that we're not racing for the July weekend anymore there, and We also aren't doing a double header for the Legend Invasion anymore. It is now just a single night. This is mostly because no one from out of town was really coming. Last year we had a couple people come out from Vegas and one from California, but there wasn't more than like 4 or 5 dudes from out of town, so it doesn't seem like the promoter really wants to put it on. We're also going to spend 2024 to work on our track time, which may seem obvious to quite a bit of you, but right now we're not utilizing practice the way we should. We really don't know what adjustments we need to make at the track or what adjustments do what on the car. So I really want to focus on trying to figure out if I just add a turn into the right rear, what would it do, or little adjustments like that, because the only thing we know right now for sure is how to add and subtract cross without changing your ride height. So we're definitely going to dive into more of the changes we can make at the track other than that and changing pressures. We also want to work on bettering our individual laps when it comes to qualifying, because we were 1 spot short of qualifying the fast feature on that last night, and I knew that we've run better laps than that before, because I think we only qualified with a 19.1, and I know that we can do better than that. So I really want to focus on our qualifying efforts for this year and hopefully get ourselves locked into the fast feature a handful of times on the year. Another big point I want to hit in 2024 is to just try and make better content for the legend car community. Our 2023 year started out kind of weird, and then we got a little bit better, got more comfortable in front of the camera. But I am gonna work on that for you guys because, like I said before, there's just not a lot of people making legend car content. So I'll try my best to do what I can to make these videos a bit better, but just kind of bear with me while I make those changes. Now, typically when people make their annual goals in racing, some people will put down that they want to get X amount of top 5s, or a lot of it's going to be performance based or placement. But the reason I chose to focus on bettering our qualifying and stuff like that is because I know that that's stuff that we can control and figure out what changes we need to make to better ourselves. I can't control how people are going to race at the track or whether I'll get caught up in wrecks, so I don't want to put my performance-based goals strictly on a finishing position. So our main focus is going to be what we can do to better ourselves and not necessarily rely on hoping that we can make it through a race without getting caught up in an incident. We are going to try and work on our overall organization for these, because right now we're not super great at it, but we are learning a couple things. Like a couple videos ago, we did all of our hardware stuff and threw that in a bolt bin, and that'll keep things pretty neat for us, especially while we're at the track, compared to how we were doing it when we just kept it in one of the Hillman bags that you would get at Lowe's. But we are going to try and make better space of all of our spares and all the stuff that we need to carry on the trailer, because right now we're running a pretty small trailer and there's not a whole lot of room on it. So we do run out of space pretty quickly, and our floor space is very limited. So we're gonna try our best to get a lot of that stuff off the ground and maybe on the wall or in an organizer parts bin or something to just make it a little bit neater. But that's just something that we're gonna have to work on. I do also plan on fabricating some type of chassis roller stands for this car, because right now there are a handful of people that sell them, but they're so ridiculously priced right now. I mean, if you don't have a welder or anything like that, then sure, those prices are probably within reach for you. But knowing how cheap the material is to make something like that, and knowing that I just have to slap some weld on it, then we're gonna go ahead and try and do that for ourselves, because anything that we can do to save a buck for ourselves, we're definitely gonna do. But also anything that we can make that'll convenience ourselves a little bit better, we're also gonna do. So definitely gonna try and make those here in the near future, hopefully before we start putting the car back together. But we'll be putting the car back together here pretty soon, slowly getting all of our parts back, but we're definitely going to be putting it back together here pretty soon. We still got to take some pieces off of the car, but nothing too serious. And we actually already rebuilt our Willwood calipers, so if you ended up missing that video, it is our most recent video, but I'll link it here in the video as well, so you can go watch that after this. But 2024 is already starting to look a little bit hectic with all the things that we'll have going on. So definitely looking forward to it, and I hope that we can keep this car in the same shape as it is right now. For all of you that started watching this channel in 2023 and are following along, thank you. For those of you who find this channel in 2024, I hope you stick around for a little bit, and I hope we teach you a decent bit about legend cars. Even though we're very novice and still don't know what we're doing very well, we want to try and expose this to as many people as we can. This is still supposed to be the entry budget option for racing for a lot of people, but it seems like right now prices of everything are just continuing to go up, and hopefully we see this kind of return to that title. But as of now, there's not really a whole lot we can do about it. So we're gonna continue to race these as long as we can until we either move up or move down due to funds. So definitely looking forward to the 2024 season. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.
And will you get back at me? And will you get back?